And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another off-season supporter series chat. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the summer or winter, in my case, of the footy chat and the off-season supporter series has come. I cannot wait. And I cannot wait for this one. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not even going to hold back this. This is a young lady I cannot wait to sit down and talk with. I've interacted with her. I've got her on the podcast. I will introduce you to Kaylani, ladies and gentlemen. Kaylani, great to have you on the podcast. And how excited are you to have a chat?
I'm really excited, Donnie. Thank you for having me. Honestly, hey, I've been looking forward. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. It's great to chat with you in more than just tweets.
It is
so,
it
and
is
about
def
our beloved Swans.
it is definitely a lot of fun. I cannot wait. I will not hold back my excitement. This is one of my ones that I really could not wait to chat with. I have several that as I was literally setting these up, I was like, I cannot wait to sit down and have a chat. She's kind of already said a few things, but we'll still discuss them a little bit later. I knew this would happen, but we are going to do it. So let's hop right into it, Kaylani. Before we get into the footy, I want to
Yes,
find out just the littlest bit about you. So if you could tell us a little bit about yourself outside of the game of football.
about me. Okay, so I'm Aussie, born and raised in Sydney. And apart from a year that I lived in the US, I've kind of always lived in Sydney. I'm a single mum. I am pushing 50. so a little bit depressed about that. I had my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and I'm now, yeah, in that very final downhill slide to 50. So feeling a bit old at the moment. um, Outside of that, I've got three adult children. Um, I like to I sew, I bake, I try to do some market stalls when I can, make some extra money. I work. Um, that's kind of it. I yeah, get outside, like getting to the beach when I can. Probably not often enough, even though it's not that far away, but
Mhm.
take
I abs I
it for
love it.
granted.
Aussie super single mom. Absolutely love it. So, and we'll say this. Happy late birthday from the pod. Happy late birthday from the
Thank you.
podcast. Let's just safe to say you're aging like a fine wine. We'll say it that way. We'll say it that way. So, now that we've had our flattering moment for the podcast, let's hop into it. As somebody that is Sydney, what's your
Yes.
favorite thing about Aussie rules football? Or can we call it footy, even though we're in Rugby Nation?
Well, you see, that's it. I've literally grown up in rugby league heartland. I
Hmm.
am in southwest Sydney. Um, was kind of born on the northern beaches, but my parents lived out here. We just went there for the hospital. Um, Born and raised in rugby league heartland, and I literally went to school with all the kids and all the boys that followed rugby league, and I was one of the oddballs. um, that used to go to the Aussie rules on the weekend and followed the Aussie rules, and you'd kind of say, I was at the footy on the weekend, and they go, oh, what game? It's like Aussie rules, and they'd go, oh. So what do besides being highly entertaining, which the Aussie rules it's I think the skill and the athleticism you get from the players is it's hard to match it. It's constantly moving. There's always something happening. You can expect the unexpected in pretty much every game. There's always going to be something that people are just going to go, "What the
Hmm.
hell was that?" Um, and it's just great. It's exciting. Yeah, it is constantly going. It's exciting, and the players are great.
Yep. No, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. It's just find it fascinating that you were kind of the black sheep of that. That's absolutely that is
Yep.
fantastic. So as a Sydney girl, I'm interested on this. What's your earliest footy memory?
My earliest footy memory um, isn't actually kind of AFL, VFL, Swans related. I've got three older brothers who all played Aussie rules out here in rugby league heartland. So they, late 70s, early 80s, they were in local comp. And so pretty much every weekend in winter, and sometimes it was both Saturday and Sunday, we would be at the footy. And it would be, mum would pack up the car in the morning, um, and kind of going back to when I was like 4 or 5, you can kind of, remember bits and pieces from then. But certainly being at the footy, watching, the big boys, my brothers and all the boys play footy, watching how the parents interacted. It was a lot different back then. It was kind of no holds barred commentary from the sidelines. Um, it was my dad used to kind of help with it. So Saturday mornings he'd be at work and then he'd come and meet us at the ground wherever it was. And because it was such a small league back then, we literally travelled all over Sydney and kind of down south to pair up with other teams in the league. It wasn't just local, kind of a few suburbs and there'd be a team for all of them. It was widespread. Um, so you'd be driving there, and yeah, it was, you'd have he'd help with the coaching. He ran boundary for some of the older games, the older boys games. Um, you'd kind of get to help in the canteen. You'd help make some of the banners and the pom poms and be the cheer squad. Half time us little kids would get out there on the field with the older boys that weren't playing that particular game and kick the footy around, and they'd happily kind of, well, we thought it was happily let us join in. Whether we were as welcome as we thought we were. And that's another thing. You could go and sometimes help with the scoreboard. It was it was just the full on experience. And I remember that, various grounds that I still drive past now, and it kind of takes me back to those times of, when I was a little kid,
Hmm.
doing that. Because, as they got older, they kind of stopped playing. And so then I stopped getting to go.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of my earliest footy memories when it comes to the Aussie rules.
Fantastic. So as you said before, and again, I kind of gave it away when during the introduction too, you are a huge Sydney Swans supporter. So I gotta ask, besides being a Sydney girl, is
Yes.
that the reason that you're a Swans supporter, or was there another reason that you became a Swans nuffy?
No, it's pretty much that I'm Sydney, and the team that my brothers played for. So it wasn't actually the suburb that I grew up in had its own Aussie rules team. They didn't
Hmm.
play for that club. We actually played for one from kind of the bigger town a few suburbs over.
Hmm.
And they were called the Swans. So by chance, the colours were more like the Demons' colours, but we
Hmm.
were the Swans. And so, as you do as a kid, the Swans came up to Sydney in 82. So, kind of, I was 5 when they came up,
Hmm.
turned 6 that year. And I just kind of went, my brothers play for the Swans. That's the Swans. They're the big boys. So, eventually, if they keep playing as you go up, because Saturdays was, up to kind of under 17s played, Sundays was under 19s and the under 21s or the reserve grades. I just assumed from
Hmm.
then they went up to that next
Yeah.
level. And that's where they went. And so it was like, that's my club.
Mhm.
So, yes, Sydney, where, it was the home team. But, I also kind of went, well, my brothers play for the Swans. They're the Swans. If they keep playing, that's where they'll go.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Child logic, absolutely hate. There's nothing wrong with that. I
It
absolutely love it. It's innocent logic, absolutely love
made
it.
sense at the time.
So I've been one of those. I love that so many footy fans. It's a family thing. That
Yes.
usually the supporting of a club is becomes a family situation. So is the rest of the family Swan supporters, or do you have
All
any
bar one.
past outs that have supported others?
So no, I've got the middle of my three brothers, who I think he takes credit for introducing the family to Aussie rules.
Hmm.
He is a Hawthorn supporter. So he supported the Hawks kind of before Sydney Swans was a thing.
Hmm.
And we all jumped on the Swans bandwagon, and he kind of stayed the black sheep. is the Hawthorn, and I can drag him to some Swans games every now and then. A
Hmm.
lot easier if it's the Hawks that we're playing. And he'll certainly watch them on TV. But he is through and through Hawks supporter.
That is awesome. At least he holds his passion. So I'm gonna do a question without notice. Was the 2012 grand final fun for you to be able to rib him a little bit with the Swans beat the Hawks in the grand
Yes.
final?
Yes, and you know what? We still do that ribbing, so it's kind of we make it kind of a family thing. So my eldest brother and that brother and I, certainly if the Hawks are playing, at the SCG, we're all in. It's
Hmm.
we're all there watching it, and the ribbing goes on throughout the game. The banter, like, it's on in the car on the way there, it's on in the message chat, and then whoever comes home with the wind, and gets the win, they've got gloating rights afterwards. So
Hmm.
um, yes, yes, absolutely. When you remind them that yes, we beat you there, but then you get to flip it as
Hmm.
well.
It's a back and
When
forth thing.
Yeah, it is, and he certainly takes the opportunity to point out any Hawks wins over Swans. So um,
Yep.
yes,
Yep. He takes it as well as he gives it. Absolutely love it.
yes,
So
yeah, we all do.
yep, that's fantastic. So, all right. So, I want you. I know this isn't easy, and again, I'm not going to preference it as Sydney. I'm just going to say Swans. What is the first Swan item that you were ever given or bought?
Well, certainly, I think as a kid there was some, we had some cards and flags and things floating around, but probably more recently when I really kind of got back into the footy. So as much as I've always loved Aussie rules and I've always loved the Swans, and nothing will ever stop me from supporting the Swans. There was a kind of a period in my life where I had to follow it from a distance.
Hmm.
Um, and it was, kind of watch a game whenever I could. Certainly, without fail, every year the grand final and the other games, it was, if I could catch them, I'd catch them. Otherwise, I'd follow some other way. But I then started to really get kind of some changes in life, and I started to get back into making more me time and getting back to the footy. And so when that happened, I bought myself one of the Indigenous Guernseys. So not quite the one that you've got hanging there behind you, but certainly one with the black swan
Hmm.
on it. So that's probably, out of all of the current merch that I have, that was the first item in that collection, and that was
Love it.
bought probably, yeah, maybe not quite 10 years ago, but kind of, not, it was quite a few years back, and it was as I was kind of getting back into it and getting to the live games and kind of like, yep, you know what, I'm doing this for me. um, so that one.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So
Yep.
and I'll transition to this only because as we were kind of discussing off mic just a little bit about it, is that I truly enjoy the Aussie fan because they are some absolute rippers because they love with the passion, they hate with the passion. I truly appreciate it as somebody that's in a nation that has very fickle fans. I mean, we have
Yep.
fans that wear bags over their heads because they don't
Mm,
want to be seen, or fans that they follow players, not teams. So it's
yes.
always fascinating to me. So I'm gonna ask this for you, Kaylani. Describe your fandom of the Sydney Swans for me.
Probably it's probably getting a bit fanatical now, I would
Just a
say.
bit, just a bit.
um, I mean, since the Swans came to Sydney, I've followed them. And as I said, it's kind of been a bit of a roller coaster journey. So, as a kid, it was all very much still driven by that family unit. And then, kind of there was a period in my life there where, not that I kind of gave it up, but it just the circumstances didn't
Hmm.
allow for me to follow it as much as I would have liked. And then like I said, I kind of some changes in life, and it was one of those things of getting back into it. And it started out with, yep, just making the time to watch more games on TV, and with my kind of Hawks supporter brother, kind of
Hmm.
getting to some games, a couple times a year. And then it's kind of built from then. So and I'd always thought that, probably a bit silly, but I'd always kind of thought that memberships were for, rich people, not us everyday people. And so I'd kind of
Hmm.
always thought that it was out of reach. And then I decided one day to go looking and went, no, that's actually something that, I could afford. It was, and so I, then got my first membership. And it's built from then. So I've gone from kind of, as I'm getting back into making footy more, kind of prime time in my life, and because it was about making time for me. And that is the one of the things that I've always loved. Um, it was it started out with supporter, and then each year it gradually kind of got bigger
Hmm.
and bigger. And so this season, so 2025, I guess, as an example, I got to every home game for the men's. I sat there in the pouring rain. I sat there in bloody 35-degree heat, sweating, literally clothes stuck to me with sweat. I got to, I went down, I went to gather round, for the sole purpose of kind of getting there, having that experience, watching, my team playing gather round. And I did that on my own. I went down there on my own, flew there, and had a great weekend doing that. I went down to watch a game at the MCG. I actually took I I took somebody from work who has never watched a footy game in her life. But I
I
kind of
love it.
said my membership includes, like one ticket to an MCG game. I'm like, is it unreasonable to fork out airfares and hotels to not waste that one ticket?
Hmm.
And she went, no, that sounds fair. And if you want a buddy, I'll come with you. And
Hmm.
so I bought her ticket, and so we flew down to Melbourne. We actually went to the Richmond Swans game at the MCG,
Hmm.
and it was horrid weather, in Melbourne that weekend. The only time it was dry, literally, was for the game, and that was about it. It was absolutely bucketing down and blowing a gale the rest of the weekend. Um, I went to every AFLW home game. except for the one at Coffs. I couldn't travel up there to get to that. I kind of
You didn't
considered it,
miss
but
much with
just
that
the
one.
timing was was out. But I make the trek over to North Sydney. I get to Henson Park.
Mhm.
I went to the Swans fan day. I got to all of the preseason community matches that were in Sydney. So whenever I can, I get out there and I support them. So
Mhm.
that's kind of what my year looks like. And
Love it.
and sometimes I get told I'm kind of really on board with it, but hey, that's what I do.
There's never anything wrong. I will never discourage anybody from being a fan their own way. And if it's Duffy behavior again, I'm
Yep.
kind of the king. I'm kind of the king of that when it comes to it. I can't again. There's still Swans fans that look at me and are stunned, including the club one time, stunned when I tweeted that I'm up at 4:45 in the morning over here to watch a prime time Swans game, including to the point I've told the story before of several Swans fans last year when they played Port was getting absolutely pumped at the Adelaide Oval. How many? I had at least 3 or 4 messages going, Donnie, go to bed. It's not worth staying up for this. I kid you not. Several. And I told them, I said, I can't do it. I'm not that type of fan. I'm not one to leave just because we're getting pumped. I will take it. Like the people that are in the stands that are the cheer squad that made their way over to Adelaide. I'm gonna sit here and I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch them. I'm gonna support them, whether they're good, bad, indifferent, all that. I will say though, you probably didn't miss much at Coffs Harbour. Not only was it horrid weather, but the Swans girls literally just
Yeah.
that was just a game that was so difficult to watch because
It
Essendon
was.
they mucked it up, and which I I applaud them for doing it because it was the only way they were going to win is they had to muck up that game, and that's exactly what
Yeah.
they did. So we'll discuss that a little bit more. We'll discuss the Swans a little bit more.
Yep.
I want to go to this next part is, as I said, this particular fan series is about the female fan because I'm a
Hmm.
bloke. I will never experience what it is to be a female fan, not only online, but also at the ground. So I want to ask this of you. Do you feel you're treated differently as a female fan compared to your male counterparts?
I don't notice it so much at the games, but online I do, yes. Through the social media, um, you certainly notice the difference in some of the comments that you get back from people who have no idea who you are, or any, know anything about you. I certainly notice the difference there. Um, but at the games, probably not so much because, like, a lot of the games I go to on my own. So I've had a period there where my daughter we had memberships with reserved seats next to each other, but she couldn't always get there. I will go on my own and I will talk to whoever's sitting next to me,
Hmm.
whether they are a Swan supporter or the Oppo. I will, and I've never had any issues there, like never.
Hmm.
Um, but online, I noticed the difference.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is one of those like, and I will bring up a name that many in Swan circles know. Is I know Polly is one
Yes.
that I love her to death because
Yep.
she is unabashed, truly love her to death, and her online presence is hilarious at times because she literally will take the piss out of anybody that she can. Truly appreciate it. So a huge shout out to Polly. I know sometimes she listens to love her to
Yeah.
death. She's been on the podcast. Absolutely wonderful what she does. I know she's with one of the other huge Swan podcasts, and again love her work. I think she does a fantastic
Yep.
job what she does do. So huge shout out to Polly. So Polly, if you're listening to this again, love you, girl. Keep up the great work. Love what you do. So I'll ask this, as you kind of said, you're unabashed, you're friendly at the footy. So if you could give some advice to fellow female fans that are maybe a little bit leery about going to the games, what would it be to enjoy a game? What do you do to help you enjoy the game at the ground?
I just focus on what I'm there for, and what I'm there for is to support my club.
Mhm.
to watch, a great game of Aussie rules. Because, ultimately that's what it's all about. Um, there I do tend to probably not so much the games. I might kind of give some commentary back if it's warranted. Um, but just ignore those that if they want to, try and pick an argument or get at you, then clearly they've got other issues, going on. So just my thing is ignore it, and just focus on why you're there. Because there's no reason why, as women, we can't, love that sport. And it's not just about
Mhm.
watching, the men run around in their shorts and, look at them because they're nice specimens.
Hot.
It's true. Like I
Mhm.
love the game of Aussie rules.
Yep.
And if that's your reason, if it is just purely to watch the men run around, then focus on that. Go have a good time.
Mhm.
Do what you want to do. Don't worry about what others have to say, because honestly, like, I've never had any issues at any of the games that I've been to, whether
Mhm.
I'm there on my own, whether I'm there with other people. You hear some people making comments and things like that, and sometimes others will engage them. I just kind of block it out
Mhm.
and just focus on what you're there for. And what you're there for is to enjoy the game.
Yep.
And the more you watch, the more you learn about how it's played. If you're not familiar with it and you're just kind of getting into it, it's the only way. Watch the game. That's the best way to learn.
Mhm. Yep, I'm 100% with you, and I find it interesting that when it comes to it, that males have kind of taken over the well, we watch sport because we love sport. Like, there's no questioning them. Like, why are you watching women's sport? Are you just watching it because the women are good looking? It's like you never hear that argument the other way, and I always find it fascinating. So I appreciate fans like yourself, that you're there to watch the footy. You love the footy. You talk about
Yeah.
the footy. It's absolutely fantastic. There are so many wonderful footy fans that I know and I chat with online, different things like that. And many of them, they're eloquent. They know the game. They know exactly what they're doing. It is not about, oh, he looks so hot in his shorts. Like, that's never the way they are. And I appreciate that. And I know some female fans. That is one of the reasons, it is a factor. And I'm never going to say that it's wrong, because I literally had a chat with a professor, um, an academic who has actually studied fandom. She
Yep.
studied why people love it, and I explained to her, and it was so much fun to hear her discuss it, because she discussed it in an academic way, but she discussed the thing where it's like there's always this way with men that we delegitimize women because we think that that's the only reason that they're there, is they're looking at the hot guys. They're not looking there
Yeah.
for the athletics or the sport as a whole. But what it is delegitimizing women, that there are women that really do. They love the sport. They know the sport. They can talk the sport. It's just that because they're a female, they're looked at less than when it comes to knowledge, and it's just not true. So I appreciate it. So again, as I've told every single one, I appreciate you as a fan. I can't wait. I love these conversations. They're so much fun. It's the reason that I wanted to do this particular series, because I wanted to get into the female. Because again, I'm a bloke. I will never know what it's like to be a female fan. And I try to online. Everybody knows I try to online be as respectful and as
Yep.
understanding as I want to know your side, because it doesn't really help anybody if I'm closed off and a dickhead. It just is never going to get anything accomplished. And most of those ones that do respond that way, you're never going to convince them. They have their head in a body
Yes.
cavity. I'm not going to say on this podcast. So
Yeah.
so let's move
I
on. We won't let's stay in the positive. Let's go to your love of the Swans. As you said, the Swans moved up to Sydney in
Yes.
1982. So can you tell me, what was the first ever Sydney Swans game that you attended live?
Well, I do recall, probably the earliest one I remember was back in maybe 83.
Mhm.
And I mean, at this time, like I literally am kind of, 6 years old. So it's bits and pieces of it, but we went in as a footy club.
Mhm.
So there was, there was a busload of us that went from our club in to watch them play, and I suspect it was probably against Carlton because one of the other dads from the club who went on to be president and was my dad's best mate was a huge Carlton supporter. So I could imagine probably the only time he'd organise a busload of us to go into watch the Swans would be if Carlton were the other team.
Mhm.
So went in there for that, and my brother, the Hawks supporter, actually won the lucky door prize that day because I guess it was one of the things that the club was doing to try and promote attendance, kind of in those early years. And so they'd had it was a family holiday over to Hawaii, and so my brother won that. And somebody else from our club, one of the other boys, won the second prize, which was nowhere near as good as a family holiday to Hawaii. But I do remember that. And, we took that trip probably about a year, 18 months later, or something like that. But yeah, so I certainly remember that.
Fantastic. Absolutely love it. So I'm interested on this because I know how much you love this club, so I'm fascinated on this. Do you have a favorite player from the past? And do you have a favorite player currently
I
on the
do.
Swans list?
So again, young, impressionable. I'd probably say as a kid, for the time he was there, Warwick Kappa was certainly a favourite. He had the long hair. He took the screaming marks. So yeah, certainly I kind of always liked watching him play. Um, and there's been different players over the years, obviously. But current favourite player would be Tom Papley, um, who is, I kind of often refer to him as, a little firecracker. Um, or pocket rocket because he hangs out in that forward pocket and he just he goes off. um, so, and I love him because just his energy. He can kick some absolutely insane goals, but he's just his energy. He's an agitator, and I love that.
Hmm.
Yes, he is my favorite player. I actually have his his photo as my profile photo on my Princess Cruises profile for when I go on the Swans.
Awesome.
So they have your profile photo. So every time you come up to your cabin and you walk into your cabin, it has your photo up there and it says, welcome or hello, Kaylani or whoever there is, and it pops your photo up. And so my that comes up is Tom Papley mid celebration post goal, and
Love it.
it's my
Absolutely.
favorite photo of him. So yeah, so that's kind of, I know it's a bit weird, but it's just like yeah, he's my favorite player. And when I kind of didn't want my own photo on that profile, I'm like, I don't want my photo popping up in random places on a cruise ship.
I think
I'm
there'll
like,
be a
what?
few I think there'll be a few Swans fans who appreciate that. So there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely love it. Papley is,
So yep.
yeah,
So
he's
Pat pops up whenever I
yeah.
go somewhere on the ship.
Love it. No,
So,
he's pure energy. He's pure energy. I love the jokes with the guys at the Swans because he usually hits his top speed when he's celebrating a goal. It's not even during play. So
totally.
absolutely love
Yep.
it.
Yep. Yep. And and it does make even like post. I can remember there was one game we were at, and I don't ask me who we were playing. I don't know. It was a couple of years back, And I was there with a couple of my brothers and my nephew and some others. There was a group of us, and we were sitting down kind of behind the goal at the Noble stand, and he's a goal. And he literally just he did his run, but he just ran straight off to the box. And it was like, don't worry about high-fiving anybody. He was literally just like, done that, I'm off now. And the commentary from the crowd was just hilarious in that it was it was like, job done, now I'm gone. He's just done this, like, no high fives, nothing. He's
Yeah.
just straight off the ground. It was funny. And yeah, it's things like that. It's kind of, he's unique. So yeah,
He's one of those guys on your team you love him, on the other team you think he's an absolute rat bag and you
yeah,
detest him.
yeah,
And
yeah. You do.
there's players on every team that the locals, the hometown team absolutely adore, and
Yep,
everybody that's not on their team absolutely detests. So, and there's always one.
yep,
And it's one of those, you love the rat bag on your team. You don't mind. It's the rat bag you don't mind.
yeah, yeah.
For
No,
sure. So
absolutely. But I guarantee if he was on their team, they'd bloody love him.
absolutely love him. Exactly. 100%. No, I know the feeling, trust me. So I
Yep,
love this. I love this next question purely because the twinkle in the eye of my co-host, whoever I'm talking with, because these are always fun because it's never always exactly what I think it would be. Most memorable moment so far as a Swans supporter.
you know what? I did kind of, I was giving this some thought. Um, and I reckon probably the 2024 qualifying final. We've had, like, you can't go past the 2005 premiership, just kind of ending that drought.
Hmm.
That was insane. But um being at the SCG for that qualifying final against the Giants, coming, down from being down, what were we down, like four, you know, 5 goals almost. Um, the atmosphere in there, the noise was like the stands were literally shaking. It was insane. It is so hard to describe what it was like in the ground for that game. Um, but that's probably, yeah, it'd be hard to go past that.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's a fun memory for me purely on the fact that I have a fun little story. I've told a few people this, but I'll tell it really quickly if you don't mind. Is that so? I'm watching the game. I'm watching the game, and again, this is like a primetime game. So again, I'm sitting there watching it, and my wife doesn't mind the sport, but isn't watching it fully.
Yep.
And it is getting late. It's getting into the fourth quarter, and the Swans are making their comeback. And she's doing something. She's not even watching it. She's looking away, and all of a sudden, I start celebrating because the Isaac Heaney goal goes through to
Hmm.
tie the game.
Yep.
And I'm like celebrate. I'm laying on my bed. I'm celebrating, and my wife deadpans the shit out of me, and it made me laugh so much. She goes, "Did they do something good?" And it always makes me laugh to think of that memory. And then the Armati goal goes through, and like I said, I kind of had
Yeah.
already explained what was going on, that the Swans had made this incredible comeback and were level at the time. And then Armani kicks the goal, and she kind of just looks over and grins at me after the Armati goal goes through. But I'm the same thing. Like it is still one of those memories that I cannot
Yeah.
not forget because like to see them absolutely come from nowhere to win that game and just the elation in the stands. Like I can't tell you how many times I have replayed
Yeah.
both the Heaney goal from the square
Yep.
and just
Yep.
and to rewind it and to watch the people behind the goals lose their
Yes.
absolute shit.
Yep. Yeah.
And then the Armati goal was the same thing. It's like
Oh,
there are fans that every single time I watch the replay, I have to watch their reaction because to see them absolutely go off their rockers insane. I can only
Yeah,
imagine what it was like to be at the ground. It's the same thing like when Buddy kicked his thousandth goal. The people that I do know that were
yeah,
there, like like I ask all the time, I'm like, what was it like? Because the noise had to have been insane. Not only the visual of all the people eventually running on the field, including running on the field as he kicked it, and in the back of my mind, there was always that part of me that goes, what if he kicked a behind? Because there was already like 250
right.
people running on the ground as he was
Yes.
kicking it. I'm like, how dumb would they have felt if that would have went for a behind? Because
Yeah, yeah,
he
that's
had to
it.
run
Or
off the
somebody's
ground.
touched it on the goal line. It's
Exactly. So it's like the fact that it went mid post height was kind of like I said, it was kind of perfect in the
yeah.
memory and like I think it was even discussed over here. A few of the sports casting shows had
Mm.
even shown like the I don't know if it's a blimp or a drone footage. It looks like ants
Yes.
surrounding
Yeah, the
something all running on the ground towards Buddy. In fact, I've even shown some people my phone screensaver
yeah,
is the picture in the middle of the horde. So
yeah,
those are some of those great memories that I have. There's still
yeah.
2012's grand final, the Malchevsky goal kick,
Oh,
is
absolutely.
still one I can't not. The goal that Adam Goods kicks earlier in the game where Bruce McAvaney goes, cometh the moment, cometh the champion is still one I will replay
Yeah,
forever. I have that still
yep, yeah,
In my
goodsy.
iTunes playlist. I will watch that grand final at least once a year, purely on the fact to hear Bruce and to hear Bruce make that call legitimately. And the
Yes,
fact that Dennis
yes.
Committee is also calling that game, Bruce and Dennis, that was their last game together. I will
Mm,
never let that game go away, even if the file corrupts. I cannot not get rid of it because it's so iconic, not only for my
yeah,
club, but just Bruce and Dennis are two of the greatest. Will not argue with anybody on that. So
no, yeah.
let's go to it. We'll talk the men's thoughts on last season because I'm interested because I know some Swans fans that thought last season was horrendous. There were some people that thought it wasn't bad for everything that the Swans had to go through last year.
Yeah, look, I think certainly after 2024,
Hmm.
it was it was disappointing, I guess, that it just, obviously you go from that kind of high and yeah, we crashed out in the granny, but it was still, the year on a whole was just
Hmm.
outstanding. And then um, you know, the season we had this year compared to that, yes, was disappointing. Um, although one of the things that really really irritates me around the commentary for the Swan season that you hear from others is they don't mention the fact that we had a third of the list missing at the start of the season
Hmm. Yep.
through injury. And when you look at that and take that into consideration, I kind of go, you know what, in the end, yes, we probably should have been in the top eight. And it was disappointing that there were games that they just couldn't get the shit together and get us through. But when you factor everything in, it probably wasn't as bad as it could have been when you look at it, holistically.
Hmm.
Um, and take that into consideration. And that is, it's something that kind of, they're going to go, oh yeah, they had some injuries. It was a third of the list. It was literally a third of the list, and it wasn't like a third of the, occasional in the big boys and like they
The
were
bottom
all
four or
twos.
five, the bottom
It
four or
was
five of
bloody,
the starters. Yeah.
you had Harry, you had Errol, you had Paps, you had like Amadi and McLean didn't play more than what, probably 2 games together all season. Like we had no Logan all season.
Hmm.
And then literally it was like, with the exception of maybe 2 games in the middle, you either had Amadi or you had, McLean.
McLean. Yep.
We didn't never had both, and then you didn't have Paps to add to that either because Paps
Nope.
was out for half the season. Mills was out. It was, and then Cunners and Errol and buddy, they were all
Hmm.
out.
It seemed like you would
And
get one, and then two more would drop. I know
yeah,
I know
it was
Rampy was out
that's
for
it.
some time.
Adams was out and
McCartan had his time out.
Lewis had time,
Yep,
I love
Melican was
Lewis,
the other
but yeah,
one. Like, yeah, Papley seemed. I mean, Blakey seemed to be the only one that somehow got through most of the season without getting injured. Which again, and I
yeah,
love the Lizard to death, absolutely love him to death. But there were times that he was trying to play that second tall defender, and I love
yeah.
him to death. But that's not his role. His
It's
role
not
really
his.
needs to be that halfback flanker that gets the ball on
Yeah,
the run, use his pace. I mean, I think everybody loves watching the Lizard run, unless you're the Oppo fans. That's the only time you don't like watching the Liz run. And then it was just like Grundy was kind of on and off this entire season. Like there were games where he was absolutely electric, and then there were games that
yeah,
he was getting his ass kicked in the ruck. So, and
yeah,
again, Brody's getting up there. He's not a spring chicken. He's not like, again, I will
yeah,
never call a player old because I'm older than all of them, so I will never say that. But he's a mature player nowadays. So there are going to be some games where he's not going to be his greatest. And it seemed like it affected Chad, it affected Isaac.
yeah,
No, I think Errol was that missing piece that really, really affected the team, because once he returned,
yeah,
a lot of what happened in 2024 seemed to happen again. The great kicking,
yep,
his ability to spread the field. He takes a little bit of pressure off, because if you tag him, that lets Chad and Isaac free a little bit because they can't
absolutely.
be tagged. So
Yep,
I agree. Logan, and not having Logan, like all the talk was their forward line is a shambles. It's like, well, one of our key cogs in Logan McDonald didn't play a single minute in this game at all.
yeah,
So it's fascinating, which I think let's use this as the lead away to let's go to the off season, because
that's it.
everybody talks about it. The
Um,
move, Charlie Curnow is now a Swans player. I,
yes,
I'm
he
I'm
is.
I'm I'm kind of gonna question without notice this. I mean, your thoughts on the Charlie Curnow deal, because I've made my opinions clear on this in a couple of episodes, and I can tell you your thoughts on this, because for me, I'll just go real quick. I think we paid too much. I hope he helps bring us the flag, because if he doesn't, I feel that we've given up too much young talent in the future for a guy that
Yeah,
honestly I think we get about 3 seasons out of him. I hope. I really, really hope I'm wrong. But I worry that we're really only going to get 3 great seasons out of him, and then he becomes kind of buddy. I worry that he becomes too much of a focal point when we've got guys like McLean, we've got guys like Armani, we've got guys like Logan McDonald, that I think when we did in 2024, where we had all three, you didn't know where to go, because we had
yeah.
three tall forwards that were all pretty flexible, all had pretty good pressure. Charlie's not a pressure forward even as a tall. So I worry that, have we went for the Buddy Franklin effect a little bit, where we need this focal full forward. And I worry that this actually throws us off a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, so you look at 2024 and I think people forget so easily and so quickly that we were the top score, like we kicked the most in 2024, like the team, they
Mhm.
kind of rubbished the three talls, but bloody hell, that forward line worked. Yes, there was, some help from the midfield, but it all worked cohesively.
Mhm.
2025 didn't work because we never had all three of them in there, and
Yep.
you didn't have Paps in there for half of it.
Yep.
It was literally the only consistent one in there was Hayward and
McLean.
like
Hayward
Campbell
and
and
McLean
and
were, yeah. Well, McLean got
and
dropped
JJ,
after, yeah.
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 So
And now Hayward's in different colors. So
yeah, that's it. And I kind of I get I, I kind of I'm sad that we lost him. Um, but I kind of look at it too in that it's a sport. The team, the club had to obviously kind of there needed to be some changes. Um, yes, it worked in 2024. Does that mean that it's going to work every year like that going forward? Probably not. It may have just been an anomaly that year. Um, so yes, we paid a lot for him. I hope that the gamble pays off. I think yes, probably it might be just the next maybe three seasons at kind of peak Charlie, and I'm hoping that the change of club, the change of scenery, the kind of the change in kind of the focus within the team really helps kind of put him back in that space, where he was kind of leading goal kicker. Because we know that Carlton have had some issues recently, and he's had his injuries, and hopefully that kind of all that change helps kind of
Mhm.
reinvigorate him. Um, I'm also kind of look at it in that potentially he maybe he does take some of the focus off of whether it's Logan or Joel or Doss in the forward line, or and so that they can roam
Mhm.
more and they can get into it more, because he will become that focus. Yes, like Buddy was, kind of take that kind of key defender, which frees them up a little bit. That's not to say that with he's not. He certainly will be expected to be kicking goals.
Mhm.
um,
Yep.
but maybe the whole team as an approach, it helps. I guess it'll come down to how much it impacts the other players as far as where they're playing, if they're playing, if it costs them a spot,
Yep.
as to how that dynamic works. And I'm hoping, everything we've heard so far has been positive, and I get that it's they're not going to say anything negative to media and whatnot when they talk, but it seems to be positive, that it doesn't seem to be kind of having that psych impact yet.
Well, it's in
I'm
pre in
not
pre in
fingers
pre
crossed it carries through.
in preseasons, they're always the buzzwords of training the house down,
Yeah,
fitter than they've ever
yeah.
been.
He's a gun.
There's always there. Oh, oh, yeah, yeah. He looks fantastic. He's so happy.
Yep.
I like I said, I'm trying not to be a negative Nelly on it. I really am not. But I'm always leery. I'm always leery of this. Like
Mm.
Buddy came up during his prime. Okay,
Yes.
Buddy was during some of his best years. Charlie's had some years during his prime where he, like I said, he's had the knee injuries. I hope he, again, I'm not wishing him negatively, not at all. That's never going to
Mm.
be my thing. The biggest thing that I would say that is the difference between Charlie at Carlton versus Charlie at Sydney is that if you look at Carlton's midfield, you look at Carlton's halfback flanker line, the ability by foot is drastically not as good as
None.
Isaac Heaney, Errol Goulden, Chad
Yep.
Warner, Nick Blakey, Cal Mills, uh, Braden Campbell when he shifts up onto
Yeah.
the wing, Jake Lloyd when he can go on the wing. Those are some really good kickers. If you compare that to Carlton, it is astronomically below what Sydney is. So is there the ability of Charlie coming in and absolutely blowing the house down? Absolutely. But I almost want Sydney to remember what it was like the last year with Buddy, is that maybe not so much focus on him, is use him as the decoy, have him take the best, the Harris Andrews, the Cal Wilkies, and then you go to
Yeah.
somebody like Armadi, you go to somebody like a Braden Campbell who was playing forward, Jake Lloyd when he shifted up forward. I'm trying to think of who's the Papley,
Yeah,
the
you got
draft pick.
JJ in there as well.
Yep,
It's yeah, it
yep,
certainly, and I guess my expectation is that you see it with other clubs where their players are always kicking, or at least
yep.
trying to kick to the same forward. And
It becomes
my
predictable.
expectation is that doesn't happen. In
Yep,
that they will just keep going for whoever is is there. It's
yep.
if you might be down there in that goal square, but if this player's in a better position,
Hmm.
then I'm kicking it to them.
Yeah.
So it's not a case of let's just get him as many goals as we can.
Hmm.
It's let's use him for the whole team approach. In that we don't give a shit who kicks the goal as long
No,
as somebody
no,
kicks it.
100%. Well, and I'm gonna say this, and I don't want it to be true, but I have a feeling I worry that Logan McDonald will be shifted back to become almost what Patty McCartan was, is that try to use him as that intercepting defender, um, to help out Melican and McCartan a little bit. Plus, Logan's got a pretty good kick on him. He's pretty accurate. So I think if there's any of the big three that were forward, the Armatis, the McLeans, and the Logan McDonalds, I think McDonald could shift back easier than Armati
Yeah.
and McLean. McLean, I don't think he's got the foot speed to be able to play defense. I think he's got great
No,
hands,
no.
but I don't think he's got the quickness that he'll need to play defender. And Armati, everything I've seen, his game is forward, his game is forward, his game is forward. I just don't
Yeah, I
see it.
think
So
he stays forward. Yep.
if any of the three shift back, which I think they're going to have to because they can't have four tall forwards on the line, Hawthorne, it just doesn't
No.
work. I know they have the extra sub this year, but I think that's going to be in, I think if anything, that's going to be used as an extra ruck just to give Brody a few chop outs.
Yeah.
I think Green potentially could go there. I mean, you could
Mm,
play all four and then have Armadi or McLean rotate with Brody, but the problem is does Brody go off and then they just come forward, and there's a lot of different rotational things there. I don't want to get
yeah.
into that.
Yeah.
But
And
no,
that's
and
something Coxie have to
I'm
work through.
yep, and having here's the thing, like Jai Sarong coming in, I think is a great. It adds more depth because the
Yeah.
biggest thing, I think we all know we don't want it to happen, but Dane Rampy's days are getting shorter and shorter, and I love Rampy to death. Love him. He's a mercurial
Ramps
son
is
of a.
one that can never retire. Like you just want him to keep playing.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. He's still one of my favorites. He's still
He is
absolutely one of my
absolutely.
favorites. But I think this could be year dot. I think this could be his last year, and I don't
Yeah, I
want it to be
suspect it might be.
because he's so iconic. I mean, not only the rampy row, but he's an incredibly good defender for an undersized defender.
He is.
He's
He
still one
is.
of my
He
favorites.
just
Um,
he goes after them, and yeah, he there's not much that kind of gets past him when he's certainly switched on. Yeah, I suspect that
and I
this
don't want it to
year
be. I don't want it to
will
be.
probably be his last, and if it's not, then if he gets another year, then it certainly won't be a full year, and I wouldn't be surprised if this year's not well, this year as in 2026 next season isn't kind of a full season for him. um I think probably they'll be a bit smarter with kind of resting him at times, recognizing that as much as he'll kind of won't want to say that he's getting on.
Yeah. No,
He is, and
I agree.
he's had some issues, with the calves and hammies
Yep.
and things. So I think it might be a case of 3 or 4 games on and then 1 or 2 off. And I
Yep.
think
Wouldn't be surprised.
bringing Sarong in, as much as there are kind of potentially a couple of others that have been in the squad longer that would like a break. I think there's I would suspect that Sarong would potentially get up before some of them.
Mhm.
When it comes time to filling in those holes when somebody's out injured, or whether he gets first up, I don't know, because it's then who do you take out? But I suspect that probably Ramps will be a not at every game of the season player.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, picking up Sarong certainly I think was will be beneficial to that back line.
Yep, yep. And then I can't wait for Malcolm Roses Jr. I think
Yeah,
his electric pace and ability, he's going to be fun. Like imagine if him and Papley are on the same forward line with Kerno, and then you throw some of the kickers you have. It's going to be. I think the Swans
yeah,
forward line could be quite interesting to watch this year because it could be a lot of fun. So
yeah, absolutely.
speaking of that. I put in my questions expectations, but I really have to change it. But I because I'm not an expectations person. I'm a what I would love to see type of person. I kind of dance around it a little bit. So your thoughts on next season? Do you have expectations, or are you one of those where there are things that you hope to see, but you're never going to expect it?
Yeah, I mean, my expectation would certainly be top eight, preferably top four. Um, I think we've got the list to get there. They've got the ability. We've done it how many times over the last, few seasons. So
Hmm.
it's not like it's far fetched.
Hmm.
I think, I would like to see, and I don't know whether you notice it, but I kind of always get this very negative vibe from the very Vic centric AFL media.
Hmm.
So, and I don't know what it is, but there seems to be a lot of them that are just anti. I don't know whether it's because they're
You
north
are
of the
not the only
border,
one,
they
trust me.
show up the big teams. I don't know what it is, but there are some in particular that really God, they aggravate me like there's no tomorrow.
Hmm.
So I would like to see them, kind of prove them wrong. Um, and that they go out there and not necessarily 2024 again, but certainly put on that show where there's just shut down the negativity.
Hmm. Now, I'm 100% with you. I mean, I think a lot of Swans fans that one of the biggest gripes that they have is that the Vic Central media can get very, very grating after a while because it's like if the Swans win a game, and I've noticed this a lot. You can tell me what you think. The Swans win a game. It's not what the Swans did. It's what the Vic team didn't do.
That's right. It's what the Oppo
And
didn't do.
that's very
Yes.
frustrating. But then what really irritates me is that when I'm listening to games, and I love Jared Healy to death. I know he's a Swans legend, but I swear to you, whenever he's on a Swans game, he can be one of the most negative
Absolutely.
talkers on the Swans. And I'm like, dude, you're a Swans
Yeah.
legend. I'm not
Yeah.
trying. I'm not. I don't want you to be
It's
nothing. I mean,
infuriating.
I do not want you to be like Jonathan Brown on the Lions, where the Lions can do no wrong. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want that, but I want you to
No,
at
yeah,
least
he's
give the
very much,
Swans a
yeah.
little bit of credit. And like, it's like whenever I hear him calling a Swans games, like I almost want to mute the
Yeah,
announcers on Fox Footy because it's almost over the top. And like it's one of the things like the new Fox Footy because they have the Saturday night. I don't have to worry about listening to BT and James and JB. I don't have to listen to those two. I detest BT because BT gives his opinion and I don't care. Like if you want to give your opinion, stop being a caller, be a color, be a special comments
so
guy.
Collingwood focused.
Then you can actually give me your opinion. If you're a caller, I do not care. You are
Yeah,
there to call.
yeah, that's right.
I've went on this rant before. There are so many times that BT says something and he's adamant that he's right. And
Oh, yeah,
literally the replay will prove him wrong. And you can tell when he realizes it because he shuts up. And it's
yes,
hilarious to me. I'm like, dude, make sure that you are correct if you're going to go on a rant because when the replay shows you that you're wrong, and it happens more often than it not. God, it's hilarious to hear him go and be quiet. It's hilarious to me. Again,
have you seen the video that's doing the rounds at the moment that Rowie actually shared it on his Instagram story, and I really do pity him having to sit through family functions with bloody BT at the table. That's like a form of torture, I would imagine. As much as he probably loves his uncle, he's got to seriously, kind of
it's
not
defective. Can I
towards
return it?
those. But yeah, but there's a video that he shared, and I don't know who it was that took it. But it's at their family Christmas,
Mhm.
and BT's literally got kind of 3 or 4 roasts on a spit that's rotating, in the backyard, and
Hmm.
the lid's up, and somebody says, you're sure that they're cooking right? It's not, too hot, whatever it is. And BT makes this comment. He goes, look at them. He goes, and he literally, uses the F word to reference people that kind of throw hate his way and say you can't do stuff. And then it's got that, what is it, the SpongeBob thing, a few moments later, and
Hmm.
it shows the spit with all these flames coming out.
But like I said,
It's like it's and that's it. It's he's like, I know what I'm doing. People say I can't do. I know this. This is what it is, and then he gets proven wrong.
directly, I know. Like I said,
and
I
I
don't
think that
mind him.
video sums it.
I don't mind him as a caller, but it's like as soon as he starts throwing his opinion,
Yeah,
I just shut off
yeah,
because I'm like, I
yeah.
don't care. Like
He's very
At
opinionated.
least JB will not give his opinion very much. He will at least call the game and he will let the opinions go to the guys that are supposed to be there for their opinions on things. Lee Montagna, some of the ones that I like those ones. But I'm like when BT literally he's it's we're out of bounds, it's out of bounds. Literally they show the
And
replay
it's
and the
not.
ball is still in. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, you just went on a minute and a half rant and you literally look like an idiot. I'm like,
Mm,
shut up and call the game. If you want to be if you want to be
yeah.
special comments, go be special comments. Sit down and shut up. I just, I'm sorry. I hate going on those rants, but it makes me laugh. It just makes me
But
laugh
yeah,
how many times he proves what he should just shut up and
yeah,
just
yeah.
call
I'm grateful that. I mean, I don't. Unless it's kind of the grand final, I'm not watching the footy on Seven, which is where BT does his work. So I kind of,
That's
Fox Footy.
was the one thing I was a little disappointed that Fox Footy had to pick up the seven commentary for the grand
Yeah,
final.
although
I was like
they did.
I enjoyed there are a few seven callers that I actually do like. There's a few that I really enjoy, but for the most part I really do kind of like the Fox Footy commentators. Jared Whaley I'm still getting used to him a little bit because I'd never had him before. I know he did SEN, but he had never called the footy. So I'm getting used to him a little bit. He's not bad. He's a little monotone, a
Yeah,
little bit too much for me
yeah,
personally.
yeah,
I like a little bit of pizzazz. I like
yeah. You
JB
gotta you gotta
at
have
moments.
put some emotion into it at times.
I'm a Dennis Committee and Bruce McAvoy
Yeah,
disciple.
you get
Those are my two
excited.
favorites.
Like,
And because they were lyrically and they were just so good with their words, it's it's like eating filet mignon and then going to a burger from Hungry Jack's. It's just no comparison. I love again,
yeah,
no shade to
yeah.
Hungry Jack's. I've never had it. But I mean it's just such a difference. So let's
Mhm.
we'll roll it back
Yep.
just a little bit. I want to have some fun here because you're a footy nuffy. You like to watch the football and so do I. So I want to have this fun. As a Swan supporter, I'm
Yes.
going to install you as the list manager of the men's team for a day.
Right.
All the other 17 clubs have opened up there, and you can snag one player to bring to the SCG and to play at the Harbor City with the Swans. Who's that one player you bring over and why?
This is a tough one. It's a tough one.
Because there aren't a
It's
lot of holes in this Swans team. I'm
No,
fascinated on
there's
what you say
not.
here.
And then it is purely, do you go just off of ability, or do you go how they're going to fit in overall, as
Hmm.
far as, their character, the culture, their work ethic?
I like how you're
Um,
thinking on this. So is it, what are you thinking on
it's
this? I'm
it's
fascinated.
it is kind of one of those ones, because you want somebody that you can kind of go to some of the teams and you go, yep, that person's just, like they'll
Yeah.
they'll mark the ball every time, and maybe they can't kick for shit, but they can mark the ball, and we need
Hmm.
somebody that can mark the ball. So you go, but what's their personality like? How are they going to fit in? With the kind of club, and then, because I think you get that, again, the holistic, but
Hmm.
that's what then kind of it helps feed the team. So if it's a good fit and they're all working together, then everybody kind of improves. So yeah, it's one of the, and then I guess it's also, you're looking at just forward, mid, back. Um, so there's one player that I'd like to have. It's not necessarily the best one out there. And it's not necessarily about gaps, but I do really like Alex Pearce from Frio.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think he would be a really good fit in the club, in the culture.
Yeah.
His attitude, his character, and he can play. Um, so I do like him. Um, I think, if you're looking at somebody kind of, you want to go forward like we've got Charlie and whatnot. I think Jamie Elliott's great in the forward, like his marking, he's kind of
Mm-hmm.
doesn't miss that often, but he does take some great speckies. So I
Mm-hmm.
think having something like that in the forward line always makes it more entertaining
Yep.
game of footy. Um,
Can I
I
throw
think,
I'll throw out mine, and
yep,
it's similar to your first one, okay? It's
right.
similar to your first one. And I said this to a few people. I love Charlie to death, but this is who I would have rather gone after. I would have rather gone to St. Kilda and said, "Hey, can we get Cal Wilkie?"
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
a lot like Alex Pierce, I want that defender. Because honestly, I want to release Tommy McCartan from having to play full time fullback. I'd love for him to kind of take what his brother was as that intercepting defender and
Yeah.
take that spot there. It's either that or one of the Tigers, either Vlaston. Vlaston would be my
Yeah.
other one because I want a little bit more depth in that defense personally. I think forward we're fine because Roses Jr. comes in, which I think fills the Elliott what Elliott would fill. I cannot
Yeah.
wait
I
to
mean,
see him come
Elliot, I'd
in
just take purely for the
for the
speckies.
entertainment. No, no, 100% there.
That's it.
It's like for me, I'd also like I would go Cal Wilkie would be my first one, and then I would go depth on the wing and grab either Steel side bottom or
I've
Josh
got side
Dacos.
bottom on my list.
Yep. Because for me, you'd have Goulden on one side, you'd have side bottom or Dacos on the other. Man,
Yeah,
you'd never
I
have to
couldn't I
sub on
couldn't
the
take
wing
Dacos.
ever. Exactly.
Yeah, I'd take side bottom over Dacos.
Yep.
But yeah,
I don't mind Josh because I think Josh is
yeah,
serviceable, and I think
I
I
rate
prefer
Josh.
him
Yep,
because Josh then also, if you wanted to, could shift to your halfback
yep,
flanker position. If you wanted to get Blakey further up the field, personally, you could
yeah,
switch those two. Have Josh Dacos off the halfback flank, move Blakey up to the wing, so you get him a little bit closer to goal because he can kick a goal if he wants to. So there's a lot of different flexibilities with that, but. My
mm,
first choice is Cal Wilkie or Alex Pierce. Your would be my two that if I could get
yeah.
a
I
fullback
do like
to
Pierce.
release Tommy McCartan would be my two.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean there are other players out there. Oh, like Harris
Oh, there's
Andrews, is
tons.
a gun.
There's another one.
You know,
He's one if you want to leave Tommy McCartan at the fullback and then put Harris Andrews as that center halfback to be intercepting and to be able to be a loose. Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Harris Andrews would be a magnificent pickup. He's again, most of these guys are not going anywhere.
no,
The reason I said Cal Wilkie is because there were talks that he wasn't real happy at St.
yeah,
Kilda. And like I said, I love Charlie, but I would have been okay with dropping two first round picks to bring Cal in just to give us that flexibility
yeah,
in the defensive
yeah.
side.
Freed up.
Yep. But I mean, we got what everybody said was our weakness. We'll have to see if it's true. That'll be the fun part on that. So
Yeah, see, and again, I think they forget that how quickly they forget the 2024 in that,
well, they've been pounded by the Vic media that they just don't have the
yeah,
forwards. When they actually did, it's just
they
it,
were
it
all off
isn't
injured.
exactly. Well, it isn't. Well, and it isn't Tommy Lynch or Jesse Hogan or
No,
when he
it's
was
not the big
with
name.
Carlton. You don't need a big forward with a big name. You just need one that effectively kicks goals. And one of our best, Logan McDonald, was hurt all year. So
I know, and that's it. And yeah, it's just one of the things with the media that gives you the shits in that they always
one
they
hundred
want that
percent.
focus. they insist on having that big, named key forward. It's like you can go without it.
Well, it's becoming a small forward game if we're really paying attention to that. So let's reel that in. I want to go over to the women because I know, as you said,
Okay.
you've been
Yep,
all the games. So let's shift over because I know you keep an eye on the women's game. Your
I
thoughts on
do.
this season because a little bit like the men's, it's another one of those. It's a weird year because
It's kind of
there were times I was completely up and about for this women's team, and then there were some days I just wanted to chuck something at the wall. It was such a frustrating season because again, like, and as I said with the Coffs Harbor, like the Coffs Harbor game was kind of the perfect amalgamation of this season. Like
yeah.
such a tease because it was right there and it just did not materialize. But I will say this.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing that they didn't make finals again this year because I think it kind of brought I think it kind of brought some change.
Reality check.
It sucks to lose Scotty Gowans. I really I
Mm.
did not expect that. It really sucks to see him out. But I gotta say, I think the new hire is fantastic. I think it's a
Yes,
perfect
yes.
Swans hire.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's because we also lost Nick from that kind of forward line coach as well for
Yep.
this season. He kind of left the club completely, but yeah, it was certainly a frustrating season. It started out, gangbusters.
4-0,
Um,
people were talking about being a top four side,
yeah,
maybe being a flag contender, and it just kind of fizzled after
it
game five.
is, and I don't know. There was just this kind of disconnect at times, and and maybe it was kind of Scotty was getting frustrated in that as much as whatever the message was, it either wasn't getting through or they couldn't deliver it. I don't know.
It
Was there
could
confusion?
Let me hop in here. It could be a little bit of his game style too, because he
Could
wanted to
be.
entertain, and I get it, and I 100% get
Yeah,
it because when the women's footy does need that entertainment factor for
it
some
does.
fans.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I think he wants so much for entertainment that I think that he did leave some of those defenders. Like I felt
Yeah.
horrible for Ash Van Loon, Brenna Tarrant, Alice Mitchell, Laura Hausinger, and Zippy Fish this year. I felt horrible for them sometimes because there were games they were left out to dry. They were trying their best. It wasn't that they
Yeah.
played bad. It was that because of the push to be forward, put to attack, that it did leave them a little bit suspect out the back. And Collingwood exposed that. And once Collingwood did, it seemed like the rest of the
Absolutely.
competition figured it out. And it took forever for them to make the adjustments. And I worry that I think that's the reason Scotty retired is he realized that his style of footy will work in the early days, but now that teams are much more structurally based,
Yeah.
they're much more functional when it comes to transition from forward to back and back to forward. That I think it kind of exposed him a little bit, and I think he saw the writing on the wall. I'm interested to see what Colin does here because, again,
Mm.
first ever Irish coach, but he's been in the system, he's been in the
He
academy,
has.
he's went through all of this. I'm fascinated to see what type of footy because he's got some great pieces to work with. I
Yeah,
cannot wait to see what he
absolutely.
does.
Yeah, it is, and certainly you could see at times. I don't know what the game plan was, but it wasn't working. And again, maybe yeah, the plan, the message, the way it was being interpreted, or they just couldn't deliver on it. I don't know. And it was certainly frustrating at times to
Hmm.
watch. And it is funny because you'd sit there and like you talk about the Collingwood game, but I can remember sitting there and you'd watch there be a stoppage, and it was the same thing every time. In that, you'd have our players, and they'd always have these players at the back, and it was like straight away, feed the ball out they'd go. And it was like, why is nobody on the field picking up on it? And why is nobody in the box picking up on that and stopping that
Hmm.
from happening? And it was just one of those things that kind of, in those games where it kind of fell apart, it was almost like on repeat. You could see the same thing happening over and over again. And it's like, why are we not addressing it?
And I don't know if it wasn't addressing. It was just that sometimes it's kind of like a snowball effect. It
Yeah,
slowly started going and it just kept getting away because footy is such a
you
momentum
can't
game.
catch
It
it.
really is. Like it is when a team gets momentum, it is very difficult to stop without like completely shutting the game
Yeah.
down. And again, you had performances. Zippy Fish was incredible this year, and
Yep.
I
Zippy
will
was.
trumpet it to many. I think you even saw that tweet. I said on draft night, I said this is a steal for the Swans. The Swans got probably one of the best players in the entire draft.
When you look pre-draft, it was all the talk was Zippy, 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 Zippy.
Yep.
So yeah, the fact that we managed to
That
get
she fell to
her
us at five.
was because
I still to this day, and again, Howley went to the Giants and played pretty well. So it isn't looking as much of a howler as on draft night. I thought it was a howler that they didn't take Zippy. Legitimately,
yeah,
I thought the Giants were going to take Zippy Fish. Legitimately. So when GWS passed on her, took Sarah Howell, and again, Howley was incredible this year, so she proved the Giants did not make a mistake there. Was she as impactful as Zippy was? Absolutely not. But again, we'll see. The careers will still go. But Zippy, I trumpeted it on draft night. I've been watching that girl since she was 16 years old out in the Waffle W. I said, this girl is Mon Conti 2.0, just as good and as cool as the other side of the pillow as the great Stuart Scott over here used to say all the time. I loved Zippy to death. She was one of my favorite things to watch on the Swans this year.
yeah,
It's like I said, it sucks to lose Chloe to have her back injury again. I've wished her so much that she can get her body right. She just needs to get her body right.
yeah,
I'm excited. I think the draft was fantastic because it shows how strong the Swans Academy is. We get three Swans
yeah.
Academy
Oh,
girls.
absolutely.
It sucks to lose Yarberry because she was the midfield gem that I thought would have been great for our depth, but Neeland is Taylor Harris 2.0. She jumps for everything. Great hands. Madeline Quinn, I think, is the next ruck for us.
Yeah,
I think she'll
and
hold.
we do we need that. We need somebody solid in
Well, it
that
takes
backup.
it takes a little bit of off Allie Morfitt a little bit. Maybe we just need to get Allie a little bit more consistent kicking forward to where Allie can go full forward. You can put Maddie Quinn in the center and you can rotate between the two.
Mm,
To save some rotations that full forward, ruck, full forward,
yeah,
ruck, full forward, ruck, which I think would be good for them. And then the third one is another midfield kind of defensive halfback that's going to take a little bit of work, but again,
yeah,
it's another local girl. That I think it's fantastic for the competition that Sydney girls are being drafted by Sydney and
absolutely.
GWS. Like I said, I hope Yerbury has an incredible career at GWS. I joked with my I joked with my draft person that maybe in 3 years we get her to come back. That would be fantastic. I'm not going to hold
Absolutely.
my breath, um, but we'll see. So there's a lot of things. So I did it with the men. I'll do it with the women. Do you have a favorite player on the AFLW list, and who is it?
I do. So my favorite is Tarrant. So Brenna Tarrant, BT. Um, probably followed closely by Tanya Kennedy. So,
TK,
but
love
yeah,
her.
it's and I think kind of I can remember very distinctly the moment where I kind of really noticed BT, and it was round one at North Sydney Oval in what was it, 23?
First
Um,
win.
where we came
Hmm.
home, kind of come from behind and beat the Giants. But I can remember sitting there in the Bob stand at North Sydney Oval and just it was like, it's like, God, Giants have got it. And they've kicked it forward and up she'd pop. And she was just like this little wall that just kept moving all around the ground. And I can remember sitting there going, "Oh my God, she is exceptional."
Hmm.
It was, I kind of our first season. It was, I didn't get to any of the games. It was all kind of watching it on TV, and I probably, um, certainly not things weren't standing out to me then, but I can remember sitting at that game and watching her and just going, oh my God,
Hmm.
she's just absolutely, she is that wall down there. And she'd pop up and she'd take the mark or she'd get the spoil in. And it was like you'd think that they were kicking a goal and not BT's there to stop it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's, yeah.
I don't. I'm not sure, Kaylani. You are aware she's been on the podcast a couple of times. I interviewed her
Yeah,
after
and
season.
she's such
Yep,
a
after season one, absolutely incredible. Love BT to death. After this podcast, I have to tell you the story that she told me about finding out when she was all Australian last 2 years ago.
yeah, she
Yeah.
was buddy hiking in Nepal.
Yep. Yep. And she told me that story before AFLW.com actually interviewed her. She
Mm,
told me that story like 6 weeks later. She was her and I were chatting. She came on the podcast for, yeah, it was like a men's review or something like that. We were her and I, and she told me all about it. Like I knew all
yeah,
about it before anybody else did. And plus I actually knew she was going to be there in the first place because I had talked to her after the season was over with. And she's like, yeah, she's like, I'm headed to Nepal. And I was like, good. And I was like, in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, enjoy. But I mean, there was still part of me that was like, I had a feeling she'd make the squad because she was
yep,
fantastic
yeah,
that year. And when she made squad, I remember in the back of my head going, if she makes the team, she's not gonna be there. And
no,
then
it's
and then I saw the announcement and like watched it and like I was like, oh my God, she made all Australian and she's not even going to be able to be
yeah,
there because she's like 5,000 feet
she's
above
up a mountain.
level
Yeah,
because she's in Nepal because she
I
didn't.
know. Yeah,
And as she told me in the story, she talked to her agent and Scotty and she didn't think she was going to make the squad, let alone the team. So
yep,
that's why she went.
yeah,
Oh no, it was
it's
hilarious. Love BT to death. Absolutely sweet girl. Another New South Wales girl,
yeah, yep.
Blue
She's
Mountain girl.
local.
Oh yeah, love her to death.
Yep,
Well, in fact, I'll tell you another one off the podcast, a funny story about something I texted her that I'll tell you in just a little bit. So let's get to it. I want to do, as I've told many people, I've never been to Australia. It is on my bucket list. I know I've got so many people that are like, Donnie, give me a shout when you're on there. I got your first beer. I 100% cannot wait for that, but that's it
yep,
hopefully very soon. So I'm doing a little bit of research. So when I do come over, I'm ready. So my first question, when you go to the footy, what is your go-to
yes.
food?
Okay, so if it's a men's game, I kind of I don't know whether it's a nerve thing, but I very rarely eat.
Hmm.
Like even if I haven't eaten all day,
You're not the
I
first
cannot.
person to say that.
I just don't. I get there. I get my gin and tonic.
Hmm.
That's kind of my go-to drink. They sell it in cans, so I'll buy a
Hmm.
couple of G&Ts, and I'll get a Coke. But very rarely do I buy food. If I'm eating food at the men's, when I used to have my Red Zone membership, if I ate anything, then it was the pepperoni pizza that they
Hmm.
had down in the Red Zone because there was a pizza place down there. But kind of the last few seasons, I've had reserved seats. So if I'm eating anything, it'd be like maybe a bucket of chips. I
Hmm.
can't I just can't do it. It's like I'll stop at Macca's on the way. I'll go to the Macca's at the airport because it's the only one I can get to on the way home. So I detour off to the domestic airport and go through the Macca's drive-through,
Love
and
it.
I'll eat my Macca's in the car on the way home. Or if it's an earlier game, then I'll just get something when I get home. But yeah, the men's I tend to not eat. Um, it's weird. It's kind of, I don't
Hmm.
know what it is. Whereas at the W games, I'm like, I take my blanket, I get up on the hill. Yes, I go and get my gin and tonic there as well.
It's your
But
tradition, man.
I do. I'll take. I'll take some like cheese and crackers
Hmm.
and some stuff with me, maybe some chocolates and chips. But again, the pizza. So probably, I think if I'm going to eat proper food for me,
Hmm.
um, pizza seems to be the one that wins. I'm all for a pie, but they do kind of they get hot and they end up burning and if
Hmm.
there's somebody that's going to wear the sauce off of it, it's going to be me. So I kind of I I tend to
No,
avoid them. Um, but particularly at the footy, yeah, I just can't eat
that's
the
fine.
meat. I don't know what it is. I can't
You
do it.
you are not the
Or
first.
drink.
I know one of my Carlton supporters a couple of years. He said the only thing he has at the footy is a beer, and that's it.
Yeah,
He says he's beer and then water. He says he absolutely cannot eat, and that's fine. Not everybody can, so it's not a problem. So
it's,
we'll go to the next one. Is that
it's
I'm gonna ask this in two different questions only because of the situation that I'm in. Where's
yep,
your ideal place when you go to the footy? Where's your ideal place to sit to watch the footy? And then I'm going to put this caveat, a little question on nose. At the hill at Henson, where is the perfect place to sit?
right. Okay, so means if like I've got reserve seats, and my reserve seat is actually right on the boundary, kind
Mhm,
of about halfway between centre square and the forward 50 arc. Um, and so that's my spot there. If I was buying a ticket, I tend to go on the wing,
mhm.
just kind of around that center square. And because I'm a shorter, I tend to go in the higher elevation so I can actually see the whole ground.
Mhm.
Um, so one of those things, like when I had my red zone memberships, if I was there with other family, we'd be sitting down at kind of, ground level, kind of in that forward pocket, not quite behind the goals, but down there at the bottom of Noble. When I'd go on my own, I'd be up the top on the third deck because I can see everybody from up there. I
Mhm.
don't have two people sitting in front of me blocking my view. There's kind of this bit of the ground kind of has this humpy bit, so it's a lot easier to see. So I would say if you're buying tickets, usually on the wing somewhere is the best. If you can go the lower elevations, do that. Otherwise, get a bit of elevation in so you kind of get that whole view of the ground. But the girls, Henson, I take my picnic blanket, and I sit at the top of the hill. I don't
Mhm.
sit down the bottom. I sit at the top. I've tried once or twice. I've sat in the middle. I find I just tend to slide a bit. Hill, so,
Stupid hill.
so
Gravity.
I know, right? So I sit at the top, and I do sit kind of in the kind of in that center square zone. And I sit up kind of basically not on the path, but as close as I can get to the path that runs along the back. Because it
Mhm.
used to just be grass, but they've actually paved it now. There's a footpath that goes along there, and all the booze tent set up along there. So it's
Mhm.
kind of I'm up there in the drink zone. Because
Uh,
priorities.
yep.
I don't
I
want to
bet.
have to walk far with my drink.
Yeah. Well, and I bet that gets interesting with the people back there come about mid third quarter. So.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
it's so I sit up there. I sit on my blanket. I'll have I'm kind of at the top of the hill in the center there. You can kind of see pretty much the whole ground without any issues. And because the hill does slope, it's even if it's full, you can still see over. You kind of get that uninterrupted view unless people are standing in front of you. So
Mhm.
that's where I go. So
Fantastic. And then
yeah.
I always end my episodes with this. And for me, this is fascinating. I'm interested on this. Favorite game of footy you have ever seen, live, at the telly, doesn't matter. Favorite game of football you have ever seen.
I reckon what was a really it was a fun get the atmosphere was just like party atmosphere was was it 2022 23 I think when we played West Coast at the SCG and kicked 205 on the
Hmm.
um it was I mean I went to the footy on my own that night, so I was up the top of Noble in the red zone. And I had a particular seat that I'd like to sit in, so I'd kind of get in there early so I could sit in that. and I had sit next to me. There was three older ladies that had come in, and there'd been a heap of rain, kind of in the days before it. So two of them sat kind of next to me, and one sat behind me in the seats that go along the disabled spots. So they kind of sat in there, but it was weird because I was helping them in and out of their seats and up and down the stairs because they were older and they kind of weren't quite keen on navigating those steep stairs on their own. And one of them was actually a family friend of Errol, like of the Gouldens.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a good chat with her. So she was the only one out of the three of them that actually followed footy, and knew what they were doing out there and kind of, knew the players and how to play the game. The other two were friends that she'd taken along with her, who one of them I kind of had to keep explaining to as the game went on. But it was great, kind of, at that age, kind of they'd have the introduction, they were getting into it. I kind of was having a good chat, getting along really well with them. I think they were even sharing their food with me at one point. But the whole atmosphere in the ground that day was just party. Like there was Mexican waves going around the ground, like keep it going, because it was like, this is, insane. Just watch. You kind of get tired of cheering for the Swans because they're getting so many goals. It was
Yeah.
almost like the crowd are going, what else can we do to make it,
Entertain yourselves. Yeah.
entertaining, because it's kind of getting a bit redundant,
Yeah. No,
repetitive.
I
So
I
it was,
remember that one.
yeah.
It's
The atmosphere in there was different. It was like there was no stress. It was just fun party. I kind of had those three lovely ladies that I kind of sat with, and they were even one of them was even making jokes about West Coast kind of at halftime, about she didn't think they were all going to come back out onto the ground. She thought they'd get on the bus and were heading to the airport.
might have been better for them if they would have. Unfortunately, that was a long afternoon for me because I was like
Yeah,
I remember I was like halfway through the third quarter and I have a few West Coast friends who I'm really happy, and I felt horrible. Like I'm sitting there like I'm a Swans fan and even I'm like I just
yeah, it was.
I the Swans did what they needed to do, and the one thing with the percentages and everything like that in it, it
Yeah,
encourages it because it's helpful. But I'm like, after about halfway, I mean, the game was basically over at quarter time.
it
Like, let's
was.
just be
Yeah,
honest,
that's
it was over at quarter time, and just the second, third, and fourth quarters it was just the continuance of pain.
yeah,
Again, I felt horrible for him, but then again, no, it's like I think even Swans fans have been through those times when they've gotten their butts kicked
yep,
pretty badly before. So it comes in swings and roundabouts. But that was that was the longest 3 hours of my life because I'm sitting there. I'm like I said, after quarter time, I was like, I can't really celebrate
not going to
goals
go any
anymore
other
because
way.
it's over. Like, I don't know. Again, that was a fascinating one. So,
I
Kale,
know.
again, it was one of the more interesting ones. I remember again that was just
It
an
was. I had my
interesting
dad
day.
texting me, like kind of betting on what score they'd get to
The
at
score.
each break. Yeah.
I,
So it was.
I think almost the celebratory cheer when they hit 200, and I was like, it was one of the few things. It was like I didn't think I'd ever see that in my lifetime, 200 points again. So, but it
Yeah,
was nuts. But no, so
it was
all right,
crazy. It
all
was.
right,
Yeah, it was a
Kaylani.
great game to be at.
Yeah, so that is it. That is all my questions. Again, I could not wait for this chat. It has been a fantastic. This it has been so fantastic to sit down here and talk to another Swan supporter. Again, I appreciate it. These are always my favorite episodes. I know there's always a little bit of red hat Donnie that comes out in these episodes, and I apologize to the supporters of any of the other clubs. I'm not trying to not be as happy with them as I am with you. So, Kaylani, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. It has been a fantastic chat with you to sit down and chat with you today.
Thank you for inviting me and for having me on. I was very surprised when you sent the invite. Um, but yeah, no, it's great to have a chat. I'm always happy to talk Swans. And it's great
Awesome.
to, yeah, finally catch up with you, have this catch up with you, have a chat. So thank you. It's been great.
No problem, no problem. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for the for this episode of Donnie's Disposal. Again, the supporter series. Again, keep an eye out. More supporter series still to come. A few other things that I'm working on a little bit to make sure that we get through these long summer months down in Australia, my long cold winter months up here for me. But we will get ourselves back to March again. Keep an eye out. More of these chats and a few other things that I have cooking. Still working on that. Cannot wait. Well, we've got to make sure that we keep footy going during these few months that there is no footy being played. So that is going to do it for
Absolutely.
this episode of Donnie's Disposals, and we'll be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.